Chris Bosch is undoubtedly one of the most talented and influential Kendama players of all time. He has an impressive list of competitive accomplishments, a signature model with his sponsor Soul Kendamas, and even spent a few years working within the industry itself. Many people, myself included, would go as far as saying he quite literally changed the game. And as a well-respected member of the Kendama community, it's hard to imagine a player of his stature getting any sort of flack. However, for a brief but impactful moment in Kendama history, he was indeed the center of controversy. The year was 2011, and Kendama had been steadily growing in popularity over the past 3 years in the United States. Among those who caught the Kendama fever was at the time 19-year-old Chris Bosch from Yakima, Washington. Chris had a background as a sponsored skateboarder with one of those personalities that caught on to things quickly. Kendama was no exception, and after moving to Spokane from Yakima later that summer, he officially started his Kendama journey.
Skating was it. I played sports all the way out throughout high school, baseball, basketball, didn't do football too much, but yeah, then got into skating and that kind of took off, took a lot of my time and dedicated a lot of my, creativity and everything to that. And so I was sponsored by a couple shops here in Yakima where I currently live. So there was Mid-State Skate Shop that existed, a good group of guys, actually made it into the Thrasher magazine, first shop of the month a couple times. So it's pretty dope. Still got that magazine in the seal. Watching just the style that was incorporated in it, just like skateboarding, that same type of, it's yours, you create your own aspect around it, your own style around it. I was like, that's literally the same aspect, same concept, but I'm not having to go jump down 15 stairs.
Fast forward a few months to 2012, and we would find a trick meta for Kendama that had gone, admittedly, a bit stale. There were a handful of ultra-creative players, and juggles had just begun to emerge on the scene, but it felt like Kendama was due for a major breakout performance from someone. Enter Chris Bosch's first year of playing. His unique style, spike-first mentality, and natural feel for the game separated him by leaps and bounds, and in a matter of months, he was surpassing a vast majority of players in terms of skill. He started playing with a small group of locals, which only further propelled his skills, prompting him to release a number of personal edits as well. By the time 2013 rolled around, Chris Bosch was ready to put his skills to the test and enter the Sweets Kendama's Pro Sponsorship Video Contest. The contest was fairly standard for the era. Players would submit one video entry showcasing their skills and personality, and a select few would be chosen to produce a second video for their next round. The winner of this contest would receive a sponsorship with Sweets Kendamas. It was a tantalizing opportunity for the ever-growing, but still very young Kendama scene, as sponsorships at this time were few and far between.
A lot of people, a lot of great, still relevant Kendama players entered this contest. And that's where ground zero is me putting out that edit, putting out my entry into the contest.
Needless to say, the video entries were exactly what people expected from Bosch. The presentation was genuine and true to Chris's personality, and the tricks were absolutely mind-blowing. They were creative, personalized, and difficult as all hell. They were bonkers, man. Fucking crazy, actually. Bosch's first entry received plenty of praise, many commenting on his astonishing skills and ridiculous rate of progression. You see, while many players had quickly become familiar with his name and playstyle, it wasn't until this first entry that the community learned Chris was less than a year into his Kendama play. He easily made it through to the second round, and while there were plenty of notable entries to the contest, Chris had firmly established himself as a clear frontrunner. Well, at least to some. Others were not so convinced. Upon releasing his second round entry, there was a distinct tonal change in the comment section as a considerable percentage of players began to chastise Chris. A wave of criticism and skepticism of his abilities came crashing down seemingly out of nowhere. But why? What was in the videos that caused this? Were they altered or edited in a deceitful way? Had he somehow found a way to disguise his obvious skill by using advanced Kendama technology? Did he have the supernatural ability to slow down time? No. It was much worse. His string was too long. You see, at the time, Kendama players were by and large purists, meaning they played relatively by the book when it came to their favorite Japanese ball and cup game. Anything that could seemingly take away from the legitimacy of a trick by traditional JKA standards was highly frowned upon. So what does a longer string have to do with anything? The logic is basically this. By Chris extending his string length by a whopping 1 centimeter above the recommended length, the tricks were perceived as illegitimate, as the extra space provided by the longer string would make tricks, in theory, easier.
Got some comments of people being like, hey, your string's really long, like that's a great tricks, but like that's a long string, it doesn't follow the rules. And I'm sitting here thinking like, the rules, like, you know what, the rules, I was bummed. Just straightforward, I was bummed, for people that I've watched before putting this edit out, people that like, I now still look up to and like have high respect for, of course, like, so that's awesome to have that. But I was bummed. I thought I've never been one to want to cheat at anything. I want to win fair and square, and I want to be as best as I can be fair and square. So like, not only was I bummed, then I started self and like reflecting like, okay, am I even good at this then if I'm not going by the rules? Like I started like breaking that down.
It would be understandable for a player to be discouraged after receiving this type of feedback, especially one who was as new to Kendama as Chris. And honestly, who wouldn't be? Not only had he dedicated the same time and effort into the entries as anyone else, but players of whom he looked up to were the same ones attempting to discredit his tricks. They were quite literally bashing him for being prolific at a game they love. It goes without saying that many in his position would have bowed out, succumbed to the almighty panel of Kendama judges, and faded off into irrelevance. Of course, that is far, far from what happened.
I came home kind of just with a good little spiteful vengeance in my head mindset and popped out my GoPro and I refilmed those tricks.
On March 17th, 2013, just 3 days after his second round entry for the Sweets contest was released, Chris Bosch dropped an absolute hammer on the Kendama community, the legendary edit JKA Tricks. In this beast of a video, Chris once again demonstrates his proficiency with Kendama by performing the 3 most difficult tricks from his round 2 entry, using a JKA approved Yellow Ozora with an unforgivingly taut 2-finger string length. He did this to show myself and the community that I can perform at the same level of Kendama within JKA regulations. And did he ever?
There was spite in me that was like, I'm gonna prove these guys, like these I'm gonna make myself and them know that I can do it.
The tricks were executed in textbook fashion, and after each trick, Chris made sure that the viewer got a good look at what Kendama he was using. This effectively erased any and all doubt of his now undeniable skills.
Got some comments, like I said, like I remember Matt hit me up after that and was like, dude, I can't believe you really went in. Matt Dakota hit me up and was like, I can't believe you filmed that again. Like, what the heck, dude?
The community was humbled instantly, and the comment section was flooded with unanimous praise and adoration for this monumental feat. It seemed like the tune about Bosch had changed back to what we all knew in the beginning. He simply is amazing at Kendama. People were jealous of his skills, and to cope, they tried to bring down a player who was quite literally at the top of the game less than a year in. This ultimately backfired on the skeptics and sent many respected players home with their tail between their legs, and rightfully so.
And so, yeah, it made me feel good to get that little bit of extra recognition from the people that had said something from the original edit. So that's how that happened. I remember I mobbed home and full intent is to film that edit.
Chris is still active to this day, posting on Instagram and YouTube, entering competitions, and continuing his legacy as an extremely high-level player. He has a wife, a great job as a manager for Spectrum, and continues to represent Kendama as the sponsored player, legend, and pioneer of the game. Now, if there's any deeper meaning to take away from this entire story, it's that it's easy to be critical, especially if someone is jealous or envious of another person's abilities. It's not like you can help how you feel, but you can definitely channel it in different ways. And by doing so, you can turn it into something else, something more productive. Instead of lashing out, Chris responded to criticism the best way possible, by letting his skills do the talking and not reciprocating the same negativity that he was receiving. He didn't take the easy way out, but instead chose the high road, an action that truly embodies his character and sets a positive example for others to learn from. That was the story of Chris Bosch and Stringgate.
Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed that, please leave a comment down below. That was done by the magnificent Daniel Robinson. If you're a Patreon supporter, you can now go over to Patreon and check out a full interview that D-Row had with Chris about the details of this event. Again, thanks for watching and thank you for your support.